Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello again. We
Hi.
are the host of the technology-enabled track. I am Ciprian Moga from Bucharest, Romania.
And I'm Miguel Fernandez from Brussels, Belgium.
We both partner in crime in business transformation. Sometimes you act as consultants, sometimes like coaches. Every time we help company move forward to the next level. And we are very pleased to have today Igor Mroz. I hope it's correct. Mroz, right?
Mroz.
Mroz.
Okay.
Mroz. From
It
Poland.
means frost.
From Poland.
Yeah.
A wonderful background in term of technology management, and now leading a company with a very interesting name. It's called Zero Bullshit Management. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. And whenever I introduce myself, I basically tell people that the name of the company tells the whole story. Because as you've mentioned, well, I have a quite strong background in project management in various organizations. So like from corporations to startups and even venture capital. And throughout this time, I've, well, seen and experienced my big share of bullshit. So no bullshit means no fluff, no high-level, inactionable advice like be a good leader or inspire people or whatever, and also nothing that we have not actually tested in the trenches. Because lots of advice you get from books, it actually looks nice on paper, but when you try to implement it, you realize that it's either too difficult or it just doesn't work. So we are very down to earth, I could say, very.
I think I touched my inner child when I heard first time your name of your company, because child sometimes they are allowed to speak forbidden words. So, but it's an invitation to activate our inner child and to maybe be more innovative and more open. So
if I actually may drop a short anecdote, the name is so forbidden that actually initially I've registered a domain Zero Bullshit Management as a whole name, but it was treated as hard spam on filters because it's a curse word and it was not accepted. My email was not accepted on many servers.
So
thank you.
Yes, Miguel.
Yeah, Igor, this is really refreshing. Thank you very much. I mean, it's quite cool to have such a guest speaker like you. I have straight away something coming to my mind regarding the job that you do with your company, and I like to know regarding the narrative. What's your own vantage point, and how do you see uncertainty playing a role, in transcending the crisis within your domain of action as a project manager and trainer? It's
actually on one hand pretty difficult, and on the other hand there are many things we could do, because what you will usually hear from project managers, because I'm working with the people in the trenches. This is the project managers, team leaders. Those are usually people treated as or referred to as the low-level management. So and whenever those people hear crisis or anti-fragility or avoiding big-time risks, avoiding black swans, gray rhinos, and whatsoever, they would usually complain like, oh, we are so little, we are at the very bottom, very end of the food chain. There is hardly anything we can do. But actually, they in my opinion, they can, because from the project management perspective, anti-fragility is just like a next step after agility. So initially we had Waterfall, and it kind of worked until things became too complex. Initially, you could plan a project because there was a goal. You could sequence some tasks and you could execute them. Finally, things became more complex, and now they are even more complex. So Agile is not enough. So you have to introduce some new things, or maybe focus on some new things. And you probably are dying for the examples or what I mean by those new things, right?
Yeah, because I mean, you took it. I mean, there are people from the trenches. So then it's something practical. So how can we make them move towards an anti-fragile mindset and a new way of
Mm-hmm.
working and a new way to perceive how risks arrive.
Yeah.
How can we do that?
Because we had this pre-conversation where we actually came up with the name like simple hacks to make your project more anti-fragile, right? And I've been thinking about that. And when I'm trying to explain anti-fragility to people, I tell them sometimes that it's a kind of a strategy that you can boil down to three things, which is simplicity, reducing the probability of shit hitting the fan, and the third thing, learning from randomness, from shocks, in order to get stronger. And when it comes to simplicity, we are, I think, hopefully, you are also doing Agile consulting, already there with Agile, because this is way simpler framework if implemented properly. So check. But reducing the probability of shit hitting the fan, this is tricky, because there we have optionality, and with Agile we also kind of have it, because we are actually ready to change the plans as we go, as we proceed. So this is kind of optionality. But then we have redundancy, and then we are running into trouble, because I keep entering companies, and then I have this department of say 40 people, and this department of 40 people has like 95 projects in progress. There is absolutely no room for redundancy, and this lack of redundancy is, in my opinion, one of the key factors why we are actually not addressing the last thing about, well, say, reducing the probability of bad things happening. So of doing proper risk management, because I don't know what's your experience? Because in my experience, risk management is this thing that sounds really, really cool, but most of companies either don't do it at all, or if they do it, they just produce like a thick document that nobody ever reads. And whenever something happens, they just get back to this document and say, hey, we've predicted it. And that's it. But it's not like people are lazy, in my opinion, or they are stupid. They really want to do, but many project managers I keep encountering, they're basically overburdened. And I don't blame them. If they have 200 emails in their inbox, arriving daily, angry stakeholders calling them, they don't have time for proper risk management. But those are actually things that people don't really have that much influence on. This has to be influenced slightly, maybe higher in a company. But there is this third area. So using shock and randomness in order to get stronger. And this actually is the area that each and every project manager can leverage. And I have like three, maybe banal examples. What you can do. First is, guess, feedback. I mean, it sounds banal, but
I think Taylor thought about this, but okay.
But actually, what is more simple and effective than exposing? I mean, in terms of getting positive shocks, than exposing yourself to feedback. And I don't mean kudo cards. I don't mean tapping yourself on the shoulder. I mean good old school constructive negative feedback. And everybody knows it, but most of managers I encounter, including myself, I'm not this great, smart, knowledgeable guys who accepts all the feedback. I also have problems with that. And most of, especially young managers, they have trouble with that. And I, of course, don't only mean feedback regarding them, but also regarding the product, regarding the way they communicate stuff to stakeholders. I have never ever seen a project manager who would ask their stakeholders, are you happy with the way we are reporting you the status? Have you ever heard somebody asking this question? Not really. Oh, LM has heard. Good for you. Great company. The other thing is relationships. Taleb postulates in his book greatly that whenever you have this option, whenever you have the dilemma how to spend an evening, and you can either choose reading a book or go to a random party, you should go to a random party because you can meet somebody that might prove helpful in the future or just might, I don't know, inspire you. But the same thing might happen actually within the company. Many project managers, they just sit at their desk doing this, updating Gantt charts or doing emails because they are overburdened with their work. But my advice very often is just strike a water cooler conversation with a stranger, or stay longer after a town hall meeting if you have town hall meetings. Grab a coffee with some people, or go to this team outing that you consider it's boring, or I don't know, have a time buffer during a stakeholder call so we can
delete some Excel sheets.
Excuse me?
Delete some Excel sheets, sorry.
Yeah, delete some Excel sheets, but have a time buffer and actually strike a nice small talk, nice chit chat during this. Because
Igor, I'm sorry, but I definitely would like to interrupt you because you said something, time buffer. We've been talking about people not having the time to do it, not having, let's say they are having too many priorities. How can we do that in a large company? How can we benefit from the high level of interactions, of profitable interactions? We need to do something practically.
You have to make yourself this buffer. Whenever somebody comes to me, and for some reason people keep coming to me and asking me, well, I'd like to become a project manager. What would you tell me? And I always tell them, the first thing I explain to them is, do you really want to? Because the first very big difference is that typical specialist estimates their work, kind of like, okay, this is going to take me 10 days. There are some negotiations, but they estimate their work. And typical project manager has 2, 3, 4, 5, or even more times as work that they would ever be able to do. So you will never have time. You just have to make it. As actually Cyprian mentioned, you have to delete some Excel sheets. You have to learn that you cannot answer all the email, that you cannot sit in your inbox all the time, that you cannot make everybody happy. I very much like the American author Tim Ferriss' 4-hour work week. And I think this is not his rule, but he just stole it creatively for somebody. But I loved his rule: ask for permission, not ask for forgiveness, not for permission. That's, for example, what I did in a big corporation when I was overburdened with some reporting that I was pretty much sure that nobody actually reads. So I forgot to send the report. I forgot to update that. And you know what happened usually?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nobody.
I have to tell you this. I have to tell you this story. I asked to a director of Asia region to remove 2 screens out of 3 from his office. He was leading his company with 3 screens like a computer programmer, and was my very first recommendation to him. Now he's vice president. See what I mean?
So you think that's the reason?
Fortune company. Not kidding. Yes.
Yeah. So a typical project, you have to learn how to make yourself time. And people sometimes complain, oh, this is impossible. Our stakeholders are complaining that we are not answering stuff. Then I ask them back, hey, do you want to get a promotion? Do you want to get bigger projects, better projects, bigger teams? And the answer usually is yes. And I tell them, you know what? So this will mean more emails, more stakeholders, more everything. And okay, you can stay up until 8 p.m., until 9 p.m., but at some point, the day just, ends. There are no 25 hours within a day.
Can we say that if we want to tackle complexity in a more efficient way, we have to simplify things inside our organizations?
Mm-hmm. But simplify on your very desk. I mean, for instance, ask every morning yourself this very important question: what is the one single thing that will actually move things forward that I can do today? And focus on that thing instead of opening your emails and get engaged into stuff. Because what you've mentioned, yes, there is complexity. Yes, we need simplicity. But very often what I hear from project managers is, yeah, if only they simplify the processes. But I've been working for a corporation that has 150,000 employees, and before they simplify anything, I would probably be scheduled due to go and retire, because this will probably take another 30 or 40 years. So you have to act on your very desk. So prioritize. Don't do everything. This will make you a buffer, a time buffer to build those relationships. And actually those relationships, I'll get back to this. This is the one single thing from my experience. There's actually nothing more helpful in managing project in difficult times than having good relationship with your client, with other departments, and with your team. And also from my experience, the poor relationships, especially in low-level management, the reason for that is lack of time. That people believe that updating Gantt chart or Excel sheet or answering all the email is the most important thing. And I don't mean that you shouldn't answer emails. You just shouldn't answer them all or in time or immediately.
Let's take some questions. You have already 3, and just to see where it goes. Is there some combination of Waterfall and Agile that teams could use to incorporate the best of both worlds?
Okay, so third, let's clarify one thing. My understanding of Waterfall and my understanding of Agile, because that's something we have to clarify. In my understanding of Waterfall is you do analysis phase, you identify and plan all the tasks up front, and then you just execute that plan. Of course, there are some maybe small change requests or whatever, but you generally go with the plan. And Agile is those working in those iterations. So we have goal, and you say you want to do 12 iterations before you reach that goal, and you plan thoroughly like first 2, and then you have like maybe broader milestones for the next. So I guess you already have the answer. What I'm teaching, what I'm trying to implement in my clients' companies, it's something I would call the hybrid approach, because many people, so having iterations that last, for instance, 1 month or 1.5 months, or whatever. This is especially helpful in companies that don't do IT projects. Because when people hear about Agile, when they hear about iterations, they immediately think Scrum, they immediately think 2 weeks, we need 2 weeks, and it works. But when you have a dedicated team, 100% dedicated team of, say, 7 developers, and they are doing IT development, and then it works. But then you have many other companies, say, I'm working with those shared services, accounting services. And they can also do Agile hybrid solution, but having their iterations that last, say, 2 months. So every 2 months, they do a regroup, they see what they have delivered, they see where they should go. Cyprian, you are doing a funny face.
Yes, I have a funny question prepared to you.
Okay.
But when you say you finish, you can answer.
So you can combine those 2 approaches. Just pick the right duration of the iteration, and you're going to pick it by trial and error. So first start by 1 month, then maybe extend it, shorten it.
Just one comment, then I probably leave Cyprian telling you about the next question. But I have the impression that this depends also on the sense of urgency. I mean, if you needed this, a solution to be delivered very fast, then we have to put the means to do it. Whether probably there are some other approaches, and a hybrid approach can be totally valid. But I think we have to put that in balance with the sense of urgency. I don't know what's your feeling about that.
I mean, I always claim that you have to pick the approach that it's most effective, right? And my take on Scrum very often, I'll get back to that topic, is that people just do those 2-week iterations, but it doesn't make sense in their environment. They could change it. They could, I don't know, resign from certain ceremonies, and actually things would go much faster. So I'm trying to be pragmatic there. Okay, what about this funny question?
Yeah. Why would you think that Agile is more anti-fragile than Waterfall model? Perhaps you can see the question. I just take.
No. Why Agile is more anti-fragile? Because Agile has already 2 factors that I've mentioned implemented there from the anti-fragile model. Simplicity. By simplicity, I mean it's way easier to get back with your team every month or every 2 weeks or every 1.5 weeks and do some additional planning, do a retrospective, and plan for only 1 month ahead. There would be much less dependencies, much less complexity in such approach than when you are trying to plan your 1-year project upfront. And believe me, I've tried that. I work on telecommunication, on billing system implementation projects that lasted for 2 years, and we had like 3-month analysis phase prior to that, and of course everything ended up badly. So we have already simplicity there, and we have already optionality. Optionality as we are ready to change our mind, because in the Waterfall project, changing your mind on basically everything requires change requests, change control committee, all this bureaucracy, and whenever there is some business need, or whenever there's some change, a crisis, or whatever, we need a budget because the COVID strike, and we need a budget to buy ourselves some Zoom license or whatever. It's much easier in Agile projects, simply.
Okay. Let's say that the one who asked the question, who stay anonymous, added also that it's something circumstantial, like designing a nuclear reactor. You wouldn't want to fail from the very first test. So
yes, and of course, this is let's make ourselves clear. I'm also not saying that Waterfall sucks. I'm also a big fan of Waterfall in certain kinds of projects.
It's a matter of context. Yes.
Yes, it very much depends on the context. Actually, I would even claim that if you are able to plan your project up front and you have like 97% probability certainty that nothing or hardly anything would change, then Waterfall is better. It's easier. It's less hassle. You can plan and coordinate many things way easier. But unfortunately, it's not the case for most of today's projects.
And one more question, if Miguel doesn't have one, it comes from our attendees. How about the role of cross-silo dialogue in improving processes and results? For example, in the case of continuous release versus continuous integrations with periodic release.
Oh, could you repeat the question? Okay, we have silos, we have continuous continuous integration.
Yes.
I think we can separate it in 2 different questions. Yeah. First, for improving the process and results through a dialogue cross silos or across the silos.
We get an answer for the person who has say, I didn't want to connect these two parts because it appears as two questions, but it was just one question mark. So let's talk first about cross-silo dialogue in improving process and result. Then if you have time, continuous release versus continuous integration with periodic release. So yeah, thank you very much for being precise.
So cross-silo, I think we've already covered that one. This is this water cooler conversation. I have actually.
Okay, so we have that one already. Yes.
Yeah.
So how about continuous release versus continuous integration with periodic release? Something to consider as one example.
Could you help? Actually, I would probably have to invent something, and I always say that a good consultant sometimes can say, "I have no idea."
Yes, actually, somebody who it's okay. Okay.
I got
ask
surprised
anymore
by
this question. We consider it answered. Very good.
Oh, see,
no, the person who asked sent me a lot of say we're fine.
Okay. Okay.
We ask every participant to give us at the very end something like a magic potion or a magic wand to take home and to use it. Do you have something for us?
Magic potion or a magic wand?
Whatsoever, the one you prefer.
I prefer, well, 3 magic potions. That's what I already mentioned 2 of them. I already mentioned soliciting more feedback and be fighting with this, being uncomfortable with that, because this is uncomfortable, seriously. I mean, good constructive negative feedback will always be, unless you are maybe handicapped, I mean, in terms of you have some mental deficiencies that you don't care, like you are a psychopath, you don't care about what people say. This is always going to be problematic. The other thing I mentioned is relationship, but the third thing I haven't mentioned is this experimenting. Taleb in the Antifragile also tells us about the barbell strategy and about the necessity to experiment, to do experiments. And actually, this is also possible even on a project team level. Say you try some new communication technique, introduce a new stand-up meeting or some change in your stand-up meeting, or outsource something if you never did, or insource something you have always outsourced. Try a new task management tool, try remote brainstorming using Mural or other similar tool. And this, what this gives you is like basically 2 things. You are learning new stuff that might actually come in handy in dire situations. And actually, I didn't do that. I was never a fan of a remote work, for instance, or remote management. And had I experimented with that previously, I wouldn't have lost 2 months after the pandemic struck. I basically wasted 2 months figuring out, okay, how am I supposed to manage my team now? And the other thing is, of course, that might come with experiments. You might hit your jackpot. So I don't know, successfully automate some process or outsource something that would save you this 25% of the time that you really need to do your risk management better, to do your relationships better, etc. And this actually happens. I mean, you can automate stuff, you can outsource something successfully, but you have to make time for that, and you actually have to actively try and look for these opportunities to experiment. So three potions: relationships, feedback, and experimentation.
Great. Well, it was an awesome discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Igor.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine. Thank you for the invitation.
So,
with pleasure, Igor. It was a very good conversation.
Thank
you very much.
We look forward to having you again.
Okay.
And thank you for our attendees who stay with us all of this time. And we're looking forward to have you again. Also, the recording will be available soon. You will get information where you can see and hear again Igor and all the guys we have today. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Igor.
Thank you.